Hello and welcome to the Vibrant Health Show. I'm Dr. Shannyn Pearce, and today's topic's fun. I'm going to teach you guys some really simple, truly simple. I know I always say that, and sometimes it's more complicated than it should be, but I feel like the things we're going to talk about today are simple and doable, and they're uncommon tips to help you lose more weight effectively that we often forget about, right? They're really easy. You can add them in right away today, but they're just things that we forget about in the busyness of life. So I'm going to take you through 6 things that you can do immediately to help supercharge weight loss and fat burning. And even if weight loss is not a goal, they are just great, healthful tips that you want to add. So we're going to start all of that together. I'm just going to tag everyone here on Facebook, get started. All right, let's rock it. So again, it's kind of weight loss season for a lot of people, right? Whether I agree with that or not, right? Every month and every season should be when we're prioritizing our health. But it so happens I get a lot more of you here ready to make the changes in January. So I want to give you lots of things that you can use. I did a video a little bit earlier this week that went into some more kind of deep dive stuff about weight loss. And today's just going to be some good practical tips that you can start. So we're going to kick it off right away. Let me know as we go. Have you tried any of these? Have you forgotten to do some of these? Give me just some input and some insight as we go through them. But I'm going to go through my 6 things you're going to add immediately to help you be a more effective fat burner and lose more weight faster, which is what everybody wants. Starting with number 1. We all know, and I talked a lot about this earlier this week, so go back and watch that weight loss video as well if you haven't, but we talked about the importance of nutrition, right? Eating the right things, minimizing toxins in your food. I went over that in detail, but what we didn't talk about is the order that you actually eat your food makes a big difference. So I want you eating healthy. But even if you're not choosing the exact perfect thing, eating your plate in the right order can help you lose more weight, even if you don't necessarily change your foods. Now, I want you to change your foods, right? We're not doing the cop-out. However, this is a great tool to use all the time. So the best order to eat your food is you always want to start with your highest fiber foods first, which are usually your vegetables, right? So start your plate and have it all separated out, right? I always picture like, your kids' plates when they used to have when they were little, all the little compartments. You almost want to build your plate the same way. Now, if you're eating something like a casserole or whatever, and this doesn't apply, this isn't going to be perfect every single meal, but when you have the choice and the ability, this is what you want to do. Eat your fiber-rich foods first. That's your vegetables. Then you move on to your protein, right? The amino acids and the building blocks. That's going to help you get fuller faster. And those are really the main nutrients we need first. So fibers and veggies first, protein second, then any fats that you have. So if you have like avocado or some nuts or anything that's more of like a high fat food, you're going to eat that next. And then you're going to end with any carbohydrate. So if you are doing something, even like a sweet potato or quinoa or rice, you always want that to be the last thing that you consume on your plate. Now, there are 2 reasons that we do this. Number 1, it really helps in digestion, right? If your fiber foods go first, and then your proteins, and then your fats, you're going to be able to metabolize those foods better. It helps decrease any blood sugar spikes from the rest of the food. So it keeps your insulin and your glucose and your blood sugars nice and stable. But you're also filling up on the most important nutrients, and you're giving your body time to be full. That by the time you get to the end for your carbohydrate-rich foods, if you're already pretty full, you won't eat as many of them, right? And even if they're healthy ones, we don't want to eat too many carbohydrates in abundance. So if you're fuller from all of your other food groups first, then you tend to eat less of those carbs. So I want everyone to give that a try. Your meals today, you're going to start thinking not only what am I eating, but what order am I eating my foods in? Tell me in the comments if you've ever tried that or that's been something you've been doing with your food. I'd love to hear. Number 2, so that's number 1, eat your foods in the right order. Number 2, chew your food the appropriate number of times. I've talked about this a few times, so you guys should know the answer by now. How many times are we supposed to chew our food before we swallow it? Tell me if you know the answer. The answer is every bite should be chewed 30 times, right? And I know for me, typically we're on the go or, I am not chewing my food 30 times unless I'm consciously thinking about it. So often when I'm eating, I have to slow myself down, remind myself to chew more times before I swallow, because one, it's going to slow down your eating. You won't overeat. You'll eat just to be satisfied and not to be overfull. The slower we eat and the more we chew, the less likely we eat too much. But when we chew our food enough and it gets to that almost liquid state before we swallow it, we can metabolize it so much better. We're not going to have as much inflammation. We're not going to have as much bloating. We're not going to have as much hard time with our liver and our gallbladder releasing the right things to help us break down those foods. Really chewing it 30 full times till it's almost liquid before you swallow it is going to make a huge difference, not only in how you feel, it's going to help with bloating, it's going to help with bowel movements, but it's also going to help you lose more weight because we're slowing down, we're chewing, we're giving our body enough time to make all the right enzymes. And again, we're typically not going to overeat as much because you'll be able to get those full cues sooner instead of scarfing in our food, only chewing it 5 or 6 times before you swallow. All of a sudden your plate's, totally empty. And oh man, I feel like I ate too much. I probably could have stopped like 10 bites ago. Have you ever said that to yourself? I feel like I've said that a lot of times. Like I should have stopped 10 bites ago. Slowing down, chewing, and eating in the right order is really going to avoid that situation. So we're doing the right order of our foods and we're chewing it 30 times. Number 3, use all of your senses when you eat, right? So our body is designed that what we're supposed to do before we eat, we're supposed to see the food, and that cues our brain to start making digestive enzymes. We're supposed to smell the food, which is supposed to start you salivating, right? Have you ever just smelled dinner and you already start to get kind of a watery mouth? That's enzymes. That's your body getting ready to process and digest the food. So we're supposed to see it. We're supposed to smell it. We're supposed to be, using our hands. We're supposed to be feeling what our food feels like, cutting it, getting the texture. We're supposed to be tasting it, right? We're supposed to be going through all of it, hearing it cook, hearing the sound of it, hearing the sound of yourself chewing your food. All of our senses were designed to be part of our experience when eating because they actually turn on the right physiological processes. So again, if you're somebody who's not mindfully eating your food, you'll notice a lot of what I'm talking about today is just going to be about being mindful with what we're putting in our body, slowing down, appreciating it, smell it, look at it, take the time to cut your food into smaller pieces, chew it 30 times, feel yourself swallowing it, be present in your meal. So often we're not present in our food. We're eating on the go. We're in a rush. We're literally just scarfing it in because we just need food. You're not experiencing your food, which means you're not releasing adequate enzymes. You're not balancing your stomach acid, which is hugely important for weight loss. You're not getting the right metabolic balance. You're not balancing your blood sugars appropriately because we're not eating in the right order. We're rushing it. We're not experiencing our food. It's just become a habit to just, throw things in our mouth, swallow, and go about our day. That's not the purpose, right? Sit, be present. There's another word, sit, right? You shouldn't be eating on the go. Don't be eating at your desk. Don't be eating standing up. Sit and have intentional times to have your meals so that you can go back through this checklist and make sure you're experiencing what you're eating, getting the optimum nutrition from what you're eating, and then making yourself a more effective fat burner, right? Everyone wants a good metabolism, balanced blood sugars, to be able to naturally burn fat without trying so hard. These little things seem simple, but they make a huge difference. So tell me in the comments, be honest. Are you usually rushing through your meal? Are you eating super fast and barely thinking about it? Or do you slow down and take time to use all of your senses and enjoy and experience what you're eating? Tell me in the comments, be honest, because I know most of you, the answer is you're going way too fast. So eat in the right order, make sure we're chewing, we're using all of our senses to experience our food. The next one is about your amount of macros that we're going to track. Now, the most important thing for a woman, and we have seen this over and over and over again, is the biggest barrier to being able to lose weight is not getting enough protein, which is one of the reasons why protein is one of the first foods I want you to eat on your plate, because I want to make sure that's a priority. But women need between 80 and 100 grams of protein to be effective fat burners. And most of you, if you were to track, I always say, go get MyFitnessPal, super easy app, download it. And for the next 2 or 3 days, don't change anything, right? Don't actively try and add protein. Just track on an average day with what you're normally eating, how many grams of protein are you getting? And most of my women come back and they're getting maybe 50 grams of protein per day. And we want 80 to 100. Not only does it actually help you lose weight, right? Eating more protein can help you lose weight, but it's also going to help with energy. You'll notice you're not getting those midday slumps. It helps with brain fog. If you are deficient in protein and amino acids, of course your brain's not working right. So if you feel overwhelmed or brain foggy or tired in the afternoon, you likely are not getting enough proteins. And then you need the energy and the building blocks from protein for your body to be able to build or burn fat. If your body is already depleted, it does not have the energy left over to burn the extra 10 or 15 pounds that you want. We need to fuel it so it can burn the fire to help you lose weight. And I find protein is the place that most women in particular are lacking. So I challenge you, if you haven't, track your protein macros, use an app, look at it in the next couple of days. And then from there, you'll know, right? If you're only hitting 50, okay, I need to figure out where I'm going to get, 30 to 40 more grams of protein, and then be intentional about how you're going to add that in. Is it larger portions of protein with dinner? Is it making sure you have a good protein-rich snack midday? Is it adding an extra scoop of protein powder because you know you're not good at adding more protein throughout the day? There's lots of different ways you can get additional protein, but I want you to be aware of what your baseline is, right? What are you on average getting? And then make a plan to add in enough to be hitting at least that 80. Most women feel their best when they're getting 100 grams of protein a day. And I know that can seem like a lot, but if you really start looking at how much protein you can get from nuts, we use a lot of beef steaks, we'll add extra, protein. I'll have like meatballs just in the fridge and I'll just eat one of those as a snack instead of, leaning on something that doesn't have as much protein. It's not as hard as you think to get more protein in, but it starts with being aware of how much you're actively getting and then adding more from there. So 80 to 100 grams of protein, not only will you feel better, but it's going to help you lose more weight faster. Number 5, move after dinner. We need to digest our food. When it sits in the gut and causes inflammation and starts to ferment, they can create yeast overgrowth and all kinds of stuff. We can't just eat a large meal and then sit and hope our body's able to move it all the way through. So whether that means after dinner, you're consciously going for a walk, that would be perfect. Or if it's as simple as get up and do your dishes right after dinner, be standing, do your dishes before you go and sit down or do whatever else you have to do in the evening, trying to get up and stand. Almost every weeknight, we're leaving right after dinner to go to one of our kids' sporting events, right? Someone has something every night of the week. So I make it a point when I get there, instead of sitting down on the stands at basketball or instead of sitting in a chair and watching my daughter's gymnastics, I stand in the back, or I'll kind of walk around the gym or walk around where the seating areas are, instead of just eating, sitting in the car, sitting in the stands, coming home and going to bed. That means after dinner, I didn't move my body at all. That food's going to get stuck. You're not going to be able to digest it as well through the night. So making sure you're getting some movement. Now, it doesn't have to be 60 minutes or even 30 minutes. Even 10 or 15 minutes of conscious movement after you've eaten is going to help your body be able to process that food better. And it is absolutely going to help bloating, weight loss, and giving you that extra fat burning capacity. So remind yourself of that. Once you've eaten, you're sitting at the dinner table, what can I do for the next 10 or 15 minutes that gets my body up, keeps me moving before I sit back down? That is just a good, healthy tip for anybody, but especially if you want that additional weight loss. And then lastly, sleep. Probably one of the biggest complaints women come to me for is energy and poor quality sleep. The society that we live in does not foster good sleep, right? We have notifications and we have lights and we have things going on and we're stressed out and our brains are full and our phones are beside our bed and all the things, and we're not getting good quality sleep. If most people know they should sleep better, but if you need a real reason why you need to prioritize your sleep, is on average for a woman, if you get less than 7 hours of sleep per night, right? So if you're getting 6 hours, if you're getting 5.5 hours, that can equate to a 30-pound weight gain over the last 15 years. So if you're somebody who you're like, man, I just keep putting on a couple pounds every year, I'm up 30 pounds from where I was when I was, in my 30s or whatever. And this is pretty common. I feel like that 30 pound of extra weight is really, really typical on a woman. It could solely be the fact that you haven't let your body sleep enough to be able to burn fat. When we don't get enough restful hours of sleep, It alters our leptin receptors, our ghrelin receptors, which are responsible for fat burning. It decreases your metabolism. You don't have the energy stores to burn fat. It makes a huge difference. If you would not even change what you're eating and you would just get better rest, more quality sleep, and go to bed earlier, right? The key is most of those hormones regulate before midnight. So if you're someone who's up late and you're only going to bed at 11:30, you're going to bed at midnight, some of you aren't going to bed till like 1 a.m., you are missing the hours of sleep that really help you regulate those hormones. And that is going to stack up to 30 pounds of extra weight over the course of 15 years. That's staggering and something you do have control over. Go to bed earlier, put in good sleep practices, making sure you're getting at least 7 hours, but really we're aiming for that 8 hours of sleep for a woman. That's where we do our best. Now, I know some of you where you're at in life, you might have young kids, you might have different night shift stuff going on, and it's not always possible, but you can always make improvements, right? Even just a little bit more sleep is going to give you tremendous benefit in all areas, but definitely when it comes to weight and when it comes to weight loss. So those are my 6. Let's recap them. The order of your food: fibers, proteins, fats, and then carbohydrates. And if you get full along the way, you're always welcome to skip, right, part of your carbohydrate portion because you've already eaten your most important nutrients first. We want to make sure we are chewing 30 times before we swallow, or at least chewing a whole lot more than we are right now. You'll notice when you first start trying to chew 30 times, it's hard. Like it takes like a conscious effort to do that. So I want you, again, I love like tracking where you are and then making improvement. So tonight at dinner, don't change what you're doing yet. Count how many times on average you chew before you have the urge to swallow and see where that is. And let's start by doubling it, because some of you, it's probably only going to be like 5 or 6 times before you swallow. So if you go from 5 or 6 to 10 or 15, we're not at 30, but we're a whole lot better than where we were. So notice where you're at and come back and tell me, because I find this fascinating. How many chews on average do you do before you swallow? And then at least double it. And we're going to work towards getting to 30. We want to make sure we're using all of our senses. Slow down at your meals. Smell it, see it, cut it, taste it, feel yourself swallowing it, do all the things, hear it, all the things that turn on the processes that make you a really good, not only fat burner, but ability to absorb that nutrients and be able to get the top benefit from the foods that you're eating. Making sure we are moving after dinner. We're not sitting, we're not sedentary, even if it's simple, just standing and doing dishes, you're doing something to move your body. And then sleeping, you're going to focus on good, healthful sleep quality and at least getting more than you are currently getting if you are not getting at least 7 hours of sleep every single night. All of those things are doable for every single one of you, no matter where you're at in your health journey, no matter how long you've been doing this, or if you're brand new to it, no matter if your food is on point or you really struggle with nutrition. Everything we just went over is stuff every single one of you can do. So take this knowledge, just hearing it doesn't make a difference. Implementing it is what makes the change. So be aware of where you are, make changes to get better, implement these 6 tips, and then come back and report to me what surprised you, what things are you doing better at, how did your body respond when you made these changes? I always love to hear how you guys are doing once you make those modifications. So hopefully at least 1 or 2 of these were new information or great reminders for you to pull back into what you're doing for your health and wellness. Go ahead and give them a try, and we'll be back next week with more health topics and great tips that you can start with right away. So have a great rest of your day.